I'm Waymer.
I'm Lewis.
I'm Steve.
And it's about that time.
You're listening to the Everyone But Us podcast, straight from the heart of London.
So, hello everyone, what's happening? Welcome to another episode of the Everyone But Us podcast. Obviously still under lockdown here in the UK, but how you been doing, Steve, all right?
Yeah, decent, mate. Yeah, I've certainly feeling the benefit from abstaining from drinking for the last 2 months. Although recently I had a look at, last night I was just, locked down, you got nothing to do, and I was looking around. So where I live, I'm in St Albans now, right? And this place has got the reputation for having the most pubs. So I decided to have a look and see how many pubs I had within a 15-minute walk of my house. And it turned out to be 24.
24 pubs?
24 pubs within 15 minutes walk of my house. August, I'm going to start drinking again. And I think August is going to be a very messy month for me.
But are they decent pubs though? That's the thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like a nice town up here, to be honest with you.
You probably got some nice bars, and then you got your proper Gary Lager pubs where everyone's just snorting like pub bash cocaine and that, and drinking Carlin. What about you, mate? As you've been working still, yeah?
So I've been doing a lot of work in a women's prison. So for the past year, so I've just been working there. Outside of that, nothing much really. Just I've got a little studio at home, so I muck about doing my own little thing at home. Been watching a lot of football and stuff, but other than that, I'm just waiting to get out there, bruv. I'm just waiting to get out there and live life again, man.
Obviously, the end of the tunnel is approaching, but just flick of a switch and they're all talking again about, we've got to go back into lockdowns. Hopefully that never happens again.
Oh, God, don't. Are we allowed to talk about coming to America too, or should we wait for our guests so you can ask them?
No, let's. Okay, we can ask them. Maybe they've seen it, maybe they haven't. But you know what my views are on it. Like, but I'll wait to the end. I'll wait to the end. But anyway, let us introduce today's guests. Another band from America. Sorry to our UK people, but you're just not good enough. No, I'm only joking. No, I'm joking.
Step your game up.
I know. Another band from America, of course. One of the biggest homes of obviously hardcore, New York. This band started back in 1995. I hope I'm getting my dates correct. Very big in the beatdown, metallic hardcore sort of like persuasion. I hope I'm getting everything that I'm saying correct and I don't get evils and shouted at. But for a lot of people, especially here on the EU and the UK, they're very influential. The sound is like super, super, super heavy. I saw them once back I was with, I'm not sure if you guys know Ammo, but me and my friend Ammo, we came out to, I think it was a Black and Blue festival, and we came to see Denied. Oh shit, I just giving the band's name away. But yeah.
All suspense gone.
All the suspense gone. You never heard that bit. But anyway, yeah, we went to Black and Blue, and there was a show during the week as well. Billy Club played, a band called Pit Fight, who were Extension, Scam Dust, and I saw Denied for the first time, and that's what I wanted to introduce. So obviously I've said it and we're going to start it, but many thanks and welcome to Denied.
Thank you.
What's up?
Thank you so much.
How are you guys doing? I'll start with Greg. How's life?
Yeah, it's okay. It's going good. I mean, with the lockdown sucks. Can't do anything. Just working, hanging with the kids and the wife. Really, just doing that shit. Getting fat, getting bald. Nicky's got me writing a lot of lyrics.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, that's weird.
And Melissa and Nick, how are you guys doing?
Definitely same. We're working, and we're all actually working from home, so we're trying not to kill each other. And it's been pretty good, pretty productive. But just trying to stay out of the public,
Yeah.
Here in America, we have a very divided population of people who follow lockdown rules and people that don't. And so we try to stay away from everybody as best as we can.
Including each other.
That is the one thing in it. You got it's kind of split, isn't it? You got half a population who believe in it and want to make sure that things go back to normal. Then there's another half who like kind of believe it, but they kind of don't, and they just don't give a shit about it. So it must be very difficult, man. Everyone just wants to get back to normal ways, but it's very difficult to tell some people.
Very frustrating.
Yeah.
Right, so I want to ask you all the beginnings of the bands, the roots, how you got into it, your early days, or even before getting into hardcore.
I grew up in Queens, middle class neighborhood, nothing crazy, nothing too heavy and hard and stuff.
Was your family into a musical background or anything, or was it just sort of like a straight up working?
My father sung in the 50s. and through like part of the 60s. And so I guess I got music from him. We used to listen to all the 50s records and stuff when we were driving around. My sister is older than me. She's 10 years older than me. So she was into new wave. And I remember hearing that from her bedroom. She introduced me to the Beastie Boys. So my love of music just started going from there. Then I started DJing. So it just started progressing from, new wave to rap and to metal and eventually down to hardcore.
So it's a roundabout way. As you mentioned, you said your dad was a singer. What sort of music was he doing?
It was like doo-wop.
Oh, wow.
Stuff, yeah. He was him and 3 other guys.
Well, is doo-wop like barbershop quartet sort of type thing?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Oh, that's
pretty
cool,
good,
man.
I wish I would have heard it.
Oh, you never heard?
Nah, I didn't have anything.
Nothing recorded or anything. They just used to do
nothing.
We used to like the guys that used to sing around the trash can on fire.
Yeah, like that. Yes.
Like that.
Yes.
All the harmonies, like Boys to Men. It's like,
yes.
I
early Boys to Men.
There's a famous scene like that in New Jack City where they're singing around the trash can as well. Right?
Yeah.
And it's just going through how the area changed from being nice into a crack-filled neighborhood. Yeah. And Melissa and Nick, where did you guys grow up, and how did you get into this sort of before you obviously got into the bands and that?
I was never really into music when I was younger. I grew up about a mile away from Greg, half a mile away from Greg in Queens, New York. Wasn't really into music until I was like 13, 14 years old, got into Metallica, heard the Injustice for All record and said, that's it. That's the record I'm going to compare everything to. So started playing guitar when I was 15 and then drums when I was 19. And then it went from there. Like I wasn't really into a lot of different styles of music, but hardcore was like right away. Like I heard Bulldoze and I was like, that's the band I want to play like. I want to be like those guys. Played all the I learned how to play drums by listening to Bulldoze records and just playing drums along with it. That's kind of my introduction to music.
Oh, damn. And for yourself, Melissa?
So I was always into music, always as a kid. I mean, as young as 4, I was into my Barry Manilow 8-track tapes. Oh, yeah. Easiest music. And then in the 80s, the year that I really got into music was really like around the year that I met Nick and Greg, which was 1994. And that was some year for music. And they didn't tell you. I'm surprised they didn't tell you, but they were both in a band together.
Oh, okay.
Oh, are they?
We're getting to that.
And when I first met them, they had a band, and I got to see the birth of Greg as a singer. It was amazing, and it was great. They played in the basement. They had a New Year's show, and I was like so impressed. So right after that, I definitely wanted to play with them and so on. But by the time I met them, they were already into hardcore, because I met Nick in 94, and before we even dated, he bought me a birthday gift of tickets to a show. And it was to see Biohazard and Typo Negative.
That's dope.
And I thought, oh, wow, I loved it. And
you grew up in Queens as well, did you mention?
Yes. So I grew up in North Queens. They're from South Queens. And so I'm more closer to the Jackson Heights. It's a northern part of Queens, but it's part where DMS comes from.
Oh, okay.
That whole area and so on. So I didn't know them until I met them until like around college.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Nick and I went to college together, and then Greg was a friend of a friend, right?
I knew Nikki from grade school.
Oh, okay. All right.
Are you guys still living in Queens, or have you moved away from the area now?
No, we're all living in Queens still.
Oh, you're still holding it down.
Yeah.
That's
The
it.
roots are here, man.
I love that.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, that's it, man. I mean, obviously, I know work takes you places, family, different opportunities and stuff. I know that there's a lot of the people from the New York hardcore scene from yesteryear who don't live in a city anymore. They've moved to different places. But so, yeah, it's pretty cool to hear that you guys are still living in the
Yeah,
same.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Good point. It's expensive to live here, but it's like London.
It's exactly the same, definitely. So, kicking on from that, obviously hearing a little bit about growing up and music taste and everything. So, Nick and Greg had a band that they started together. What was this band that you guys started?
It's supposed to be like hardcore, but I don't know what it wound up to be.
I thought it was good. We never actually got to record anything. I played guitar in that band, and my brother played drums in that band. And we used to fight a lot. So I think we kicked him out, and I took over on drums, and that's how we got Melissa. I think we were a band for like a year, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. Very short time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And we're like, no, we gotta be better.
Was Little Greg in that band? Like
Fiorentino, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was it fast or was it slow beat down, or was it you didn't know what you was doing? You was just finding ideas and seeing what stuck on the wall.
I know I didn't know what I was doing because I had never sung, never did anything before except for DJ'd. So
Okay.
basically, Greg Fiorentino, I worked with him. He told me come down to this little jam session that they were doing in Nikki's mother's basement.
Mm-hmm.
I went down there and I was sabotaged. Here's the mic, go sing. I'm like, sing what? I don't know what I'm doing. So after a little persuasion, I snuck behind the bar and I crouched down, shut the lights off, and I just yelled what I thought, would have thought of. And from there, singer was born, I guess.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
That's it, man. It's weird. It's hard. I mean, do you play the instruments, Greg?
No.
Yeah, I'm the same as well. I don't play any instruments, so
I'm musically retarded.
Yeah, I could say the same as well. But it's difficult, isn't it? When someone's like, "Yeah, just sing." It's just hard. You never had any sort of like real experience or training apart from obviously watching people on stage doing it. So then something just comes about. Obviously, a little bit of help from some certain means of drink or drugs, and then all of a sudden, you're doing it.
I'm like, I wouldn't have the first clue. When you give me a microphone I would stand up on stage and play guitar in front of 100,000 people, no problem. You give me a microphone and say something, I'll be like,
yeah.
I've done. Yeah, I'm this exact same way. I don't have. That's a talent to be able to.
No, not really. I still don't know what I'm doing, so don't worry about it.
What was the name of this band that you had for a year?
Loss of Hope.
Loss of Hope. Well, that's not.
Yeah, very positive. Very
positive message to the world.
Proper hardcore sound like. So obviously, you moved on from Loss of Hope, and then you decided that you're going to start the band Denied. So how did that go about? Who was the one who laid the framework into basically starting this new project?
I think Fiorentino stated that he didn't want to do work. The bass player was like, I'm out. And at that time we started going to shows, and we were like just really like in love with these shows and having a great time. And I remember one day we were hanging out in Nick's house, and I think it was Gregory who said, hey Mel, why don't you pick up the guitar and do something? And then, and Nick had actually bought me a guitar at that time, and he was teaching me how to play. And I'll never forget, I plugged in, and I think I only hit the E chord, and Greg fell on the floor. He's like, that's it, we have a band. and we just decided to make something, right?
Like I had never played drums before. So if you listen to those, like the first 3 months of tapes, it was bad because Melissa never really played guitar. I never played drums except
I never sang. So it was fun. It was interesting. How we got to this point is unknown.
But it was fun. It was fun. We were having a good time. We were in that phase where, we just believed in the scene, and we were really pumped by the music. And
it's as you guys probably know, it's super hard to find drummers, right?
Yeah.
So when we got rid of my brother, like we tried a little bit to find drummers, couldn't find them. That's why I just said, let me move to drums because it's easier to keep a band going. And then, to put up with me learning how to play drums, we kind of just, developed this style very similar to Bulldoze, but we kind of made our own thing because that was the level of playing that we had at the time, right? It was simpler, but it was, it worked for us. So we kind of made something that worked for the level of skill that we had at the time.
Well, that's the magical thing about hardcore as well, is the level of skill doesn't really need to be that high.
Very true.
Yeah, I think that's why everyone gravitates to it, because you don't have to be like a trained musician to do it. You just you can know 3 chords and write an album.
There you go.
Yeah,
Right, exactly.
I think these days though it has lost a little bit of that charm where people would just be like, oh, let's just give it a go and fuck it. If people like it, they like it. They don't, then they don't. But we're still going to try. Whereas these days, a lot of the kids, they have to feel like they need to be good straight away, and sometimes it just doesn't come out sort of. It comes out the way how they think everyone's going to like it, but then when people listen to it, they're like, oh, this is like, it's just not too good, but it just doesn't feel raw.
Back then, 20 years ago, you can go to a rehearsal studio, record yourself playing 2 or 3, 4 songs, and then just copy tapes and hand it out at shows, and that was good enough. And now people need like professional recording and spending so much money and polishing things, and things need to be perfect and punched in and auto-tuned and all that kind of stuff. And I think it took a little bit of the rawness and like what hardcore was. Now it's all this polished stuff, which is great. I don't take anything away from that, but that's how it's changed. Like you could go to shows, and I remember getting the first Irate demo, where Phil just was handing out demos to everybody at a Castle Heights show, and that you'd go and just exchange tapes with people. And that you can't really do that anymore, not because the medium is gone, but because the expectation is anything that isn't this polished, perfect product, it isn't good. And that wasn't the way it was back then.
Do you think we're speaking from another generation though? Because now you've got like Pro Tools, you've got all this software where you can program the drums to be perfect. And when we were doing it, you had like a 4-track. Maybe it's just a different generation now, it's just they can create music where it does sound tighter.
I think that's great, right? The tools allow the process to be easier, and we kind of utilize and jump on that bandwagon too. Like if you listen to some of the stuff we did 20 years ago, you're right. It was on a 4-track tapes, or like it wasn't digital the way it used to be. You'd have to be perfect with how you record things, and you got to, everyone's recording live. There are like fix-ups that could happen, but I'm so happy we didn't do that, because it captured the energy of what we were doing back then.
Everyone's recording to click tracks now, and they're all lined up on the grid. And
yeah, I mean, if you listen to any of our older stuff, I have no idea what timing we were.
On the day.
There's no such thing as
It was feeling. It was all feeling.
Well, do you remember how hard it was to record that stuff as well, when you didn't have a click, and then there was a little bit where like someone fucked up a little bit and you were trying to lay guitar over it, and you're like, what the how am I supposed to and you probably just hit an open E chord for a little bit and just wait it out, see how it goes.
Yeah, we changed riffs mid-recording because we were just like, I'm not going to go re-record that again. We're just going to play it this new way.
We did that as well. I think in BDF we did that.
Yeah.
That's just a pure freestyle, man. Sometimes that's got to be done. Well, it was that was the way anyway. So when you put out your first demos, what was the first one that came out? Was it Payback? Was that the first demo that you put out? Yeah. And had you played any shows before then, or was you doing the demo first, then playing shows afterwards? Talk us through that period.
I think it was probably a little combination of both. At the time, in order to get into clubs, you had to have some sort of a sample. So I think we had to put together the demo in order to, just even get a chance to be listened to at certain clubs. Because they would always say, all right, give us what you got and we'll call you back. We'll let you know if whatever. So I think we did record pretty early on because we were just dealing with trying to book shows and not no one knowing who we were. So we had to have something on tape to just, speak for us in order to get shows. And then after that, after you begin to learn, meet people and network, then that process was easier. But I do think we had to have it early.
Yeah. That absolutely. Like that was a must for a lot of the people that we were trying to book shows from before anyone knew who we were. They wanted to hear the music first. So we decided pretty early on, like let's get a couple of songs down on tape and then see how that goes.
Damn, because by today's standards, all you got to do is set up a Facebook page, print off some T-shirts, and then you're playing above some bands who've already been established around for a bit. Like, I mean, I'm not talking shit. That's just the reality. That's how it is. Like sometimes with some bands in parts of scenes around the world. But obviously, whoever's listening to this, you can hear that people actually had to have music before people give you a chance. So a little bit of food for thought there. Do you remember your first show that you played? Do you remember it fondly? Or
Had to be Cheers.
It was that bar. Cheers. Oh my God! Yes.
Yeah. It was with a Mortal Suffering and Restraint. No, was that the lineup? I think it was on Angelo's birthday from Restraint. Yeah.
Right, and then we played Castle Heights, which was a club that a lot of people talk about. But our first show at Castle Heights,
oh God,
we showed up and it was us and Restraint and like 2 other people in this empty bar in Castle Heights on a Thursday night. And it was like embarrassing because it was like we treated it as a rehearsal because nobody showed up, and that's how a couple of our first shows went, like where it was just us and the other bands, because that's how the scene was in Queens back then. Like everything was in the city, like everything was in Manhattan. There wasn't a lot of out of borough stuff when we first started.
Obviously, you're part of the New York hardcore tradition. Was there any sort of was there a difference in terms of the music and what people were into? Was that maybe what set you guys apart at the beginning?
That's a good point. I think in the mid 90s, I think the scene began to grow more with the whole bulldoze infused style. And prior to that, I think the only band that kind of came near to that was Biohazard. And Biohazard, I remember, was bringing a lot of people toward Brooklyn. And there were a lot of shows in Brooklyn, but there weren't a lot of shows in Queens. And then the people in the city, those shows were more of the old style, like the, Agnostic Front and that different style of hardcore. So it really wasn't until Bulldoze, the style that we immediately loved, started becoming more and more frequent at that time. But yeah, I would say around that time it was starting to emerge, and there were different bands at the time. There was definitely a generational jump there, I think.
I wanted to ask you guys, like, when I first heard The Night, like, I could hear a lot of Bulldoze influences. So was that the band that was Bulldoze the band that you kind of architect your sound on?
100%. 100%. Once I heard Bulldoze, it was over for me. I mean, I liked Madball and 25 to Life and all those bands, but once I heard Bulldoze, that was it. Struck a chord and just stayed with me.
Okay, what was it about Bulldoze that was like, this is what we want to do, compared to your 25 to Life or other bands that were around at that time?
It was just the heaviness and the beat down and like the hatred, and it was just like bloodshed, it was crazy.
Yeah, I remember seeing Bulldoze at like they played like a Biohazard record release party.
Oh, I remember that? That was sick.
Yeah, in Roseland, and it was like it was like just mayhem when Bulldoze played. Like there was a different energy and vibe. People were allowed to be like. Not to say that things were positive, but there was a lot of high energy in a lot of the music that was around back then, right? Even though there was some diversity, but a lot of bands they went for the sing-alongs. Like you went to a 25 to Life show and there's like 50 people just charging the stage, right? Then you watch Bulldoze and it was just violence in a way that I think I saw Carnivore. Like that once, where it was just nobody knew if you're going to make it out of the club when Carnivore was playing. It was just violence, and that's how it was with Bulldoze when I saw them. And it was like, I want to do that. I want to, I want to play that way because there's a raw energy to it, right? It's basic.
Well, Bulldoze, the first actual beatdown band. I know the term beatdown was said before Bulldoze, but when I think beatdown, I do think like Bulldoze or maybe that first band that you could say is a beatdown band. And that's it.
It's definitely the first beatdown band I heard like that. Like Nikki was saying, that show that we went to, the Biohazard record release, I mean, they had Madball on there, Bulldoze. I forgot who else, but I mean, it was a big show. And once they came on, it was insanity.
So you've obviously, now you've played a few shows, you've put a demo out. How many demos did you put out? Did you just put out one, or did you have some other little tapes, CDR sort of things floating around at the time?
We put that two-song release out. I forgot, it was Stand Strong on that, Nick? I forgot what it was.
Yeah, I think it was Stand Strong and Through Pain.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't officially released. We just kind of
Just something
took them and we just handed them
out to people. Yeah,
right.
But, your next big release was with another New York hardcore band that not too many people would know about, but they are actually I've heard them. I think Pierre played it to me when I was living with Pierre back in Northwest London. Yes. It's the band Relentless.
Yes.
Yeah, and the vocalist style is very unique and very different. Sounds like B-Real from what's it called, from Cypress Hill. But how did you guys go about getting Relentless and doing this split? Like, who's behind this idea?
This was probably like around 96 to 97. So we started moving and playing a lot of Long Island shows. And Long Island is bigger and had a lot more clubs. They have the geography to have like bigger shows out there. And I guess outside of the city, their club restrictions are different. So we started meeting a lot of kids, and we started being invited to play shows. And so we became friends with a number of different people. And one of those groups were Relentless. We met them along with other bands. And then we were also good friends with Restrain at that time too. And so I don't even remember how we got on the discussion, but we knew we had to do something.
Little Greg was like the glue that brought us like to Long Island to me, because we played that show in, I believe it was College Point, and we were playing. It was okay, not a lot of people, but it was okay. And I remember just singing and this kid just taking off my back, like catapulted onto the crowd. Yeah. I'm like, who the hell is this kid? And, little Greg, he was little, short. And at that time, he was probably 16. I don't even know how old he was. And I'm like, who the hell is this little kid? And he was just kicking ass, man. And after the show, I remember going up to him. I think we gave him a tape or something, or just talked to him. And he had a bunch of like Long Island kids with him. And it just started, like Melissa said, we just started moving to Long Island. I think Greg introduced us to a lot more of the Long Island bands, and one of them was Relentless.
The Greg that we're talking about is Greg Hayward. He was the guitarist for EGH, and he would follow us at every show. I don't even know how he did it at 16. The kid didn't even have a car, but he would show up everywhere we were, and we started hanging out with him. And then he's from Long Island, and that's how he kind of brought us to that area, and that's how we got to meet a lot of other people.
So how did it go down, the split, in terms of the reaction? Did people in the wider New York hardcore scene and maybe along the East Coast and the rest of America, how did people take to it?
We put it out on a 7-inch, right? And so we probably should have put it out on a tape as well, and we didn't. So it limited who would be able to listen to it. But we had done a comp called Newfound Hope that we had put a song on before we did this split. And so that one kind of got people interested in coming down to shows, and that one got a little bit more play because it was on a CD, right? So I mean, I still have the like 50 of those 7 inches sitting somewhere in my house because it was received really well, but unless you had a way to play that, we probably should have thought about it.
Yeah, right. Should have thought that out better.
Right. I think too. I didn't even realize it till now. I think it just the medium of music was changing. We went from a cassette tape to a CD player, and vinyl was still in and out. And so it was like trying to find a way, because like our demo was a cassette tape. That release with Relentless was a vinyl. And then we didn't get as much attention until we went on to a CD. And at that point, I think it was able to be more widespread. I actually don't think a lot of people even know about that Relentless split. I
think at the time when we moved together as Nine, I think we really honed into the sound that we wanted and striving for all those years.
Yeah, for real.
I'm definitely happy that a lot of people didn't listen to that.
Yeah. I like to push those two things: the payback demo and the 7-inch. We don't need to talk about that.
Well, if you still got them in your lockup in your garage or in the house, I mean, there's a lot of people these days who are always after sort of like old memorabilia and stuff from bands, like it's retro. So
what's weird with this new release that we just put out, we have been trying to gauge from the market as to what people want, and we still can't even wrap our heads around what people want, because here in the States, people are really into digital music, But in Europe, we're getting a lot of requests for CDs. And then there's a couple of like people asking for vinyl, and it's really weird how in Europe it seems that people are far more into the CD than they are into the digital copy. And so like that's tough to figure out too, because then we have to think about how we're going to plan and release and stuff. Actually, and not just Europe, Australia. This is the first time we've heard from a lot of people from Australia. We've never had heard from people from Australia, and they've been asking us for CDs. I'm curious as to what the Japanese market is into, because they're just a huge fan base. They're amazing. Yeah, it's just different depending on where you're at or where you're from, what people are into. We get requests from England, from Spain. They want CDs.
Everyone but us. Straight from the heart of London.
The next release is the big one. Together as None is probably, for a lot of people who are into the subgenre of beatdown, is definitely in their top 10 or maybe in their top 5 of releases. How did you go about putting that release together? Was it stuff from older tracks, or were these all new tracks that you decided to do for this particular release?
It was a mix. It was definitely a mix of older work or stuff that we had already been putting out at that time. We had definitely been playing actively Stand Strong, Drown in Sorrow, through the pain. Through pain. I can't even remember the title. And then we had a couple of new stuff. So we definitely wanted to. We were really busy at the time. I remember we were just playing, networking a lot. So I think we had a total. How many songs on that? Like 8, 6, 7?
6. I think it was 6 or 7. 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Plus we had the Bulldoze cover, so it was like 7.
Secret track, yes. And so it was a mix. It was a mix of stuff that we had already been playing and brand new stuff.
Right. But the thing to note on that is when we started writing for that record, Little Greg was in the band.
I was going to mention that.
Right. So we didn't have a bass player at the time because our bass player left, and Little Greg started playing bass with us, but then moved to guitar. So Little Greg was involved with writing Stand Strong and Through Pain. Then Little Greg left, and then we wrote, I think, 1 or 2 songs. And then we got a couple of guys from a band called One Second Thought. So we had Eric and Sean from One Second Thought who came in, and they recorded all the songs with us. Because we did it live in a room. We didn't track it out. Back then that's a live recording. The writing for those songs were like over the course of a year, maybe, when we had different members. So, and I think you can hear that, like Little Greg's style and Stand Strong is a lot different than, Eric and Sean's style and Drown in Sorrow. That was interesting. And so they were a mix of like, different views of how we approached writing songs back then, and I think you could hear that on the record, and I think we were better for it. It feels like, anyway, even though it was tough to kind of go through member changes while we were trying to prepare for a release, which we had already promised Kev, because it was on Time Serve Records. We promised Kev we would have this thing out in a period of time that he was comfortable with. So we were working, against the timeline for that.
Right. At that time, we were actively talking to Kev a lot, because he was locked up, and we were going to see him, and he was, sending mail to us, and then losing Little Greg. I personally thought like, oh man, this is going to be hard to replace, because he has a presence that, Greg. I love that kid. But when we discussed it, we got Sean and Eric, because we were good friends with One Second Thought, which to me is one of the best Queens bands that played. Like Nikki said, you could definitely hear the style change, and it helped us out a lot.
Can I just quickly say, my favourite Denial song is Resurrection, man.
Same.
That dual vocal with the talking and the screaming, that's hard as fuck, man.
Yeah.
That is hard as fuck, man.
Yeah. We actually wrote that song with Little Greg. The beginning of that was a Little Greg riff. That was the last riff that Little Greg wrote for the band.
Right.
Then we come into with the jungle beat over it, and then, the guitar coming in. And then like you can hear it because like that was a Little Greg riff, and then we go into riffs that we wrote. And yeah, so that was Resurrection was the last song we wrote because that was the intro on Together As None, and then we re-recorded it. That was the last song that we wrote with Little Greg. I didn't think about that till now.
Yeah, man. Rest in peace, Little Greg, man.
Yeah, for real. Did you guys on the back of this? So the date it came out was 1998. So obviously you must have. I'm sure you played quite a few shows. Did you guys remember your record release show that you did for it? Was it a big turnout, or was it like, as you said before, pretty quiet on a weekday or something?
I don't remember when we released it.
I think it was at Castle Heights.
Yeah, it was probably definitely.
So are you guys familiar with the club, Castle Heights?
Yeah, I prefer the Castle Heights. Yeah. So that was like our home base for a really long time, and Kev and John gave us a shot at that club when no one else would. So respect to those guys. So Kevin Castle and then John Mangan, and it was crazy. Like, because we were going to shows there, we were doing like three a weekend. We would go and support people and play our shows, and they would support us. And that show was crazy, the record release show. Because we also did the Woodstock of hardcore, and that was kind of a corresponding, but that was with Little Greg. But yeah, the record release for Together As None was crazy. Because at that time you'd have hundreds of people coming to shows. Right, it grew from 96 to 98, 99. That's when things got crazy. That's when they got big. Did you get any sort of like, because I'm sure Kev must have had to maybe distribution deal with certain distributors around the world, obviously in particular Europe and that. Did you manage to get your CD obviously out to these different places so more people could hear your band?
Absolutely. I mean, it's weird how like people would be traveling and they'd be like in Europe or Japan or somewhere, and they'd send us a picture of our CD like in a record store somewhere, right? Which blew our minds because the year before nobody's listening, or So yeah, Kev did. I don't know how Kev had the connections he did to distribute us, but yeah, he put that record around the world.
How did that come about, by the way?
I think he got a mix when he was locked down. I think he got a mixtape that one of his friends sent him with an older song of ours. Probably one of the ones that we didn't want him to hear, but he heard it and he wrote us and he contacted us and we went to visit him. You know, I thought it was bullshit when I first got the mail to my house. I thought guys were screwing. I thought the restrained guys were screwing with us. So I'm like, this is bullshit, you know. And yeah, he was legit, man. We went to see him a few times, and we just talked about it. And he's like, yeah, I want to put some. First, I think it started out like a 7-inch or something, and then it went to like a CD or split CD, and then a full CD or something. But it was like that. That's basically how it went.
That must have been a really fucking cool moment, because like, growing up, like listening, loving Bulldoze like that, and then just suddenly getting a letter like, let's do something. Must have been.
I remember when I told Kev, like we were visiting him one time, right, and we got on the subject of how much we like Bulldoze, right, and I don't think he was comfortable with that. And I had told him what I said, which was I learned drums by playing Bulldoze records and playing along, and he looked at me like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" Like he just he didn't need that smoke blown up his ass, right? So it was surreal because, you know, these guys were, you know, that was the band that I said for me I wanted to be like, and this is the guy who's like, I like your band enough to put out music. So
yeah, it was definitely a good feeling at that point.
Yeah, man.
When he eventually came out, did you guys at any point tour together? I'm sure you must have played shows together, but did you tour anything?
No, I think we played. I mean, I remember playing. I think it was Coney Island High with them. I think we opened like one show, and I think they were on. You know, they were playing later on.
Yeah, we played a few shows outside of New York City with. I know we played with Cold as Life and Bulldoze. We played a few shows with those guys outside of New York City. But I don't think we got a chance to tour.
So before we sort of like get towards the millennium time releases and stuff, I just wanted to bring it back a little bit and ask a question for Melissa. So obviously you're a guitarist in a band, but you're in a pretty male-dominated scene. How was that for you at the time, especially sort of like in the 90s when it was like proper like tough guy, macho, everyone with their like with their shot jackets and their Timberland boots, thinking they're proper bad, you know what I mean? I'm getting the baggy jeans, the vibe. How was it for you? Obviously, doing your thing and that, like, did you get a lot of support, or did you feel that people sort of like didn't see you as an equal to them?
Never once did I ever feel like that I didn't belong. I, of course, acknowledge that I was in a male-driven industry, and I don't know. I don't remember really being too focused on it. I mean, if you looked at pictures of me, I looked like a boy at that point anyway, because I did my best. But I was so enamored with the whole scene that I wasn't even that self-conscious. Like it didn't even occur to me. Nobody ever made me feel denied that I was different or anything. And it was I was always accepted, but I was always the type that how do I say it? When girls came to shows at that time, it was always one or two type of girls. It was the girl that was really into the music and she was not there to entertain anybody, or there was the girl that was, she would hold her boyfriend's jacket and stand there on the side and just whatever, and so I always felt so invested in the music, so I was always about the playing and the supporting and being at the show, and I don't know, I never thought about that. And I think the only time I ever did get treated differently was whenever we went to a new club and we would have to come in and we would be carrying our equipment. And I would often be asked if I was selling the T-shirts. And like, oh, are you the T-shirt girl?
Yeah.
Or who are you with? Who are you with? And I was like, no, I'm not with anybody. I'm here with the band. And I remember a couple of times people wouldn't believe that I was in the band until I was setting up on stage. And even up until the point that we performed, I think a couple of people expected me to just maybe step off the stage, but no, I started playing, and then I got a lot of reaction from girls. So I had a couple of girls that would approach me, and they would be so like impressed. They would also be just so motivated and so on. But that was so few in between. There were so few women at shows at that time.
Why do you think there was so few women at shows? Was it the difference in shows being obviously the sort of like more heavier side of hardcore beatdown that tended to be a little bit more rough around the edges as compared to, say, something which was a little bit more old school push bit sort of like type of bands? Do you think that's what it was, or maybe a lot of the women at the time just were sort of like falling out of love or not really too much into hardcore at the time?
I think it's really both. I think it's not a scene that had a lot of female fans. They just weren't really into the music. And, all throughout the years, like, it's a rare woman in that was like truly a fan of the music. And I did meet girls, other women there who were fans, but a lot of them just weren't fans. And of course, coupled with the heaviness and the violence at shows, it was even harder. It was even harder. I mean, it is hard for a woman to be involved, because in a show, if you choose to get involved, like if you choose to be in the pit, you're gonna get hurt at some point. And I'm sure there are some people who like really feel that if a woman's gonna put herself in there, well, she's gonna learn a lesson. And so, that's not very appealing. But on the converse, I felt like there were a lot of people who were very protective. I remember the very first show I ever played, which was at Cheers, that first show we talked about. I think not even 10 minutes into the set, someone kicked me right in the stomach. And they kicked right into the guitar, into my stomach. And I didn't panic. I kept going, but someone had to stand in front of me throughout the whole show. And so there were lots of moments like that where guys would step up and, know to help out or protect and so on. So that was pretty cool.
Together as None came in 98. obviously played shows, getting a lot of reaction. People are banging into you. So what did you put out after that? From my notes here, do you put something out on Thorns Records?
We put out Together As None the end of 98. We had like I said, we Little Greg left the band. We had the 1 Second Thought guys, and we there was a bunch of just shit that was going on around that time that made things just really tough for us to figure out like what we were doing, or like the scene was different, and things were changing for the better, I would think. But so at that time, Greg left the band and Jared came in to sing. And so we had, I think we did 2 songs on Thorns Records, or we did the Step to the Plate comp. I think
that's what it's called. Yes.
Yeah. And so that was the first release that we did where Jared was singing. Right after that, I think we did a self release, with I think the same songs. I think we agreed when we put out the Step to the Plate. I think we told James, who is the owner of Thorns Records, we're probably going to use these songs on something else too. And so we put that Step to the Plate comp out just to stay relevant. And that was really good for us. We made a lot of friends, and I think that's how we kind of. I was talking to Pierre for a really long time when Greg was in the band, and so we knew a lot of people, but outside of the United States, we knew a lot of people. But that comp, I don't know how he distroed it to a period of time where people were reaching out to us saying, "Okay, we want to hear more from you guys." So we put out a self-release after that, and that's when we recorded Resurrection again. That's where we put the vocals on that, the intro for it. We re-recorded I think Drown in Sorrow for that, and then we had a bunch of live tracks and some new stuff too. And so that was feeling around because hardcore was changing, and I think when Jared came in, we changed too. We had different members at that point. That was probably Greg, correct me if I'm wrong. We had Casey when you were still in the band, right?
Yeah. He very little. I was there very little with Casey. Yeah.
So we went from the 1 Second Thought guys to another guitar player, and then we lost a bass player again. So we were kind of just figuring stuff out too. So I don't remember much about the releases that we did, but I do remember that opened us up to we came out there in 2003. I think that was a direct result of some of the Step to the Plate comp attention that we got, and the self-release that we got too. So that opened us up to new opportunities, which was pretty awesome.
So there was a few years in between until you, obviously Steve can talk a little bit more about this as well, but you put out a split with BDF. The London-based band, obviously.
We're now coming to the highlight of your experience.
Yeah, that's right. I have that framed on the wall. That's the best thing we've ever done.
Can I ask one quick question before we jump into that? Just one.
Of course you can, mate.
Quick, what am I okay to ask? Why did you decide to leave the band? Was it you just wanted to see something different?
In hindsight, it's probably the biggest regret of my life. I'm being honest. I don't know, I was in a relationship, and it was taking its toll, and pretty much that was it. And I went for the girl, and bad move. I should have stayed with the band because, I regret it. And, there's a lot more stuff now you're hearing All Shall Suffer. This should have been done way back then, and we should have probably done a lot more. Well, it is what it is.
That's fair enough.
Yeah,
man.
That's fair, man. That's fair enough. BDF denied. So let's start this. So did you guys came to the UK? When was it? 2003 for a UK tour?
Yeah, that was the best experience.
It really was.
You guys were just so welcoming to us, and
we played a few shows together while you were here. I think we played in Wickham one night. We did that, and I think we played in London maybe as well. I think we just hung out one night as well. I don't even know if there was a show, and we all just went out, and it was just such a good laugh and good fun. So I don't know whether the idea for the split came just from that kind of friendship that we struck up.
Sorry if I'm wrong, but I think that we had actually we were in the process of releasing it, because I remember we were playing shows, and I remember being concerned, like, oh, people aren't going to know our stuff because, or they might not know who we were. But I remember everybody knew you guys. And so it was right almost around the same time. So it was either just come out and then we showed up. But I remember it was so early. I felt like people weren't going to know who we were, but it didn't matter. We were riding your coattails.
Yeah.
So I think that's how it was. Yeah.
The Axel put that out, didn't he? Is that right?
It's
Phil
on
Debate,
Phil
wasn't
Debate,
it? Phil Debate, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Phil-
Axel.
No, I was just going to say, you know, when you're like a big fan of someone's band, but you've never met them, and then sometimes you meet them and you're just like, and that person, you end up hating the band. You know what I mean? So I'm so glad with you guys. It's just like everyone just bonded and clicked so well, man. I remember it being such a good time back then, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really was. It was, I have to say, it was outside of the privilege, right? Because it's a privilege to be invited to go overseas and play. So outside of the wonderful support, I mean, you guys were like incredible. I mean, between Billy's feet and like the tours that you treated us like family, and I have to say it was amazing. We were so touched by how the kindness of everyone there, the brotherhood. You know, we slept in everyone's house at one point, you know, and it was disgusting at some times. The first night, it was a wild. We slept on the floor of a house. I woke up with my face in an ashtray, and apparently I snored, and it was a problem for everybody. And I was like, everybody go fuck themselves. But it was amazing. It was just amazing. Everything. I'll never forget that tour. That tour was one of the biggest highlights that we had, and really because of the people. The people, you guys were incredible. Just really, really incredible. Thank you. 17 years later, but thank you.
Exactly.
No, thank you, man.
Was it just England and Wales, or did you manage to go to the mainland Europe as well?
No, we were supposed to, but what happened was Biohazard was doing like a huge tour like around the same time, and I think at the last minute we found out like the week before that we had like 13 or 14 shows. We were supposed to go to mainland Europe as part of it, and I think it just got derailed because they couldn't get promoters to book us a week after the huge shows that Biohazard was putting out there. So like we were supposed to go to Germany and Brussels, and those got canceled right away because of it. So I think we did 6 shows in the UK, across England and Wales. 1 show in Wales.
Who's that? Was that TJ's?
I don't know, but it like there was no stage, so we were on the floor, and it was mayhem. And it was like everyone went nuts. We were getting kicked and knocked around, and it was great. It was the fucking best.
Did you guys ever manage to get over to mainland Europe to play shows?
No. Well, we did end up having a week over there afterwards that we were like hanging out like at Billy's house, and we like go to the pub with you guys and just like meet up and go to shows, and it was like a little vacation. And I think that's what I think we connected most with was like, I remember we went with like I think. Remember we took a day out and like Danny and Billy and Ray. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, where they were just like, yeah, I'm just going to take off and drive you guys around the city and show you the sights. And I was like, who does that? Like, that was just so kind. And it was like, okay, these are awesome people. Yeah, but we never had an opportunity to go to mainland Europe, unfortunately.
Yet.
Oh, that's
I'll
That's the important.
throw that in there.
Yeah.
What about you, Greg? Have you ever been over to Europe?
No, I hate flying.
Oh, really?
So we're gonna have a problem. I'm gonna have to Zoom if we go on tour over there.
Is it going to be like Mr. T?
Yeah,
I'm not clear out.
me and flying no good. So I have
Just say some of them BA Baracus burgers.
Exactly it.
Oh, damn. So Greg, have you never flown before, or you have flown?
No, I have flown.
Like it?
I have flown. I just don't like it. one of the reasons why I was very close to 9/11. That's like now in my head. So
shit!
I was right across the street. So
you actually saw it happen?
Yeah. Living that experience and thinking you're gonna die about 17 times in 3 minutes is not good. So, but before that, I just didn't like it anyway.
Oh, that's fair. There was a famous, I'm not sure how much you guys know about soccer or anything, but there was a famous footballer who played for a team called Arsenal.
Yes.
This is the Dutch guy, Dennis Bergkamp, and he famously would never fly places. I'm not sure the reason why he didn't fly to, maybe he had an experience at one particular time, but anytime they will be playing in Europe for a European competition, he would either have to take the ferry over or he just wouldn't play, like if it was like super far away. So yeah, it's just one of those things.
I'll tell you, to get the chance to play over there, I would get my ass on the plane. So
that's it, man. You just listen to this episode and repeat all the way there for 6 hours. I'm sure you'll be fine. So that split with BDF came out in 2004, and then there was a 5-year gap in between them. Melissa and Nick, was the band still going, or was you on a little bit of a break, a hiatus, or you just nothing was happening at the time?
We had a baby, and so we became parents, and we really kind of paused everything and stopped and focused on our son. And Nick always played though. He never really stopped. He always jammed. He always played. I really took more of a bigger back seat. But we always kept in touch. We still once in a while went to the studio, and we kept going, but not officially and not formally. And we definitely didn't play any shows. Yeah, because our son was born in 2005, and so we kind of we slowed down a bit before that.
We also went through a couple of member changes
again.
So right, it was Melissa and I moved over to guitar because I have a problem with my back and hands, so I can't sit behind the drum kit anymore. So I moved over to guitar. So Melissa and I were playing guitar, and that's when we came over there. We toured with Melissa and I on guitar. We got a bass player, and we had a bunch of different drummers.
Oh my God.
Right. I think we had 7 or 8 drummers that just kind of cycled through.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard finding a drummer. It's very hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah. And then we evolved a little bit. I went back to drums for a show we did, and I think that's the show you were talking about, where it was the pre-Black and Blue festival show where we played in a club in Brooklyn. And I went back to...
It was a place in Bergen Street, but I can't remember what the name of the venue was, but it was Bergen Street in Brooklyn.
Yeah,
I remember meeting that Sid the Kid, he was there. It was a bit of a daze, because I remember just drinking loads of Colt 45s and being like completely fucked up, and then eating this greasy ass pizza afterwards. But like, I remember actually having a couple. We took some pictures as well with you guys. I'm not sure if I've still got them, but like, yeah, me and Ammo and that was pretty drunk, but it was a good night. But I also remember Freddie Marble coming on stage when Scam Dust was doing his thing and that. Like, so yeah, it was a good show, man. It was very much an eye opener for me, like seeing all these names and like hearing all these bands that I know have been big in the New York hardcore scene. So definitely helped me in terms of obviously still being pretty new to the scene. And I think it was my first time in America as well, my first time in New York. So I was just really excited and very grateful for you guys, like being really cool as well. But yeah. Colt 45.
Colt 45. I used to drink that, eat gyros and Colt 45 when I was a kid.
Horrible, man.
That's what we would do. Gyros and beer. Yeah. So Colt 45. So with that show we played, I went back to drums for it. And, we did that show. Jared was really good friends with Cousin Joe Camarada, who does all the Black and Blue stuff.
Yeah.
So Joe got us on that show. And we weren't really in a place to do shows anymore. We didn't really want to do shows. I couldn't play, but I went back to play drums for that show. And we had a guitar player, Kevin, who's in All Shall Suffer now. So Kevin Contorno. And so he played, we had Kevin and on guitar with Melissa. We had a bass player, and I played drums for that show. And that, I think that was the closest we came to a show.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like That was, I think, our very last show we've ever played.
But you put out Prayer for the Enemy in 2009 on Filled with Hate.
When that opportunity came around, we were ready to put out music again. We really had grown a lot musically. We hadn't done anything really formal with Jared as the singer. And so that was a very, very carefully planned release. We worked on it. We put our heart and soul into it, and we really did our best, because up until that point, we didn't really have any sort of longer releases. So we really worked hard on that one. And that was next to the All Shall Suffer. It was really probably the most involved, although maybe Together Is None was very involved, but there was a lot of drama around that time. So, I kind of blur a lot of that out. But I remember Prayer for the Enemy was much more relaxed and focused, and there was no pressure. We weren't looking to necessarily play shows, and there was no pressure to have to produce and then support it. So we were able to just be more of the musicians at that point, and be more careful and take our time. And I remember that. It was a very positive experience.
Yeah.
Well, what are you currently doing at the moment? Are you doing anything musically with different projects, or are you doing something which isn't music at the moment?
Just doing the All Shall Suffer stuff. That's where it's at now.
Yeah. So we were like, after, I want to say 2015 or so, like Kevin and I started playing. We had another bass player with us. We started writing a bunch of songs, and we went and recorded just the music for the songs. So we had 3 or 4 years of that. And then we got in touch with Greg again, because it was the heavier style again, what you hear in All Shall Suffer. And Greg was like, yeah, I'll grace you guys with with some lyrics here and there. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so it worked really well. Like we got into a studio with Greg, and it was 1997 again.
Yeah,
right?
Felt like old times.
Greg's voice, and his voice is I Feel Better Now, really stronger, and and so it was just I think Greg came into that first rehearsal with lyrics already. And we did Stand Strong as the first song, and it was like, okay, right there. Like it was no problem. It was like old times again. And that's why we recorded Stand Strong, and we put it on the All Shall Suffer record, because it was a connection to the Denied past, that, we evolved from that and we changed. And the Denied that we did with Jared was definitely a different Denied. And we had all new members too. But this was like a connection back to the late 90s. And it just felt right. It worked. Greg was super enthused. And we had these songs for 3 or 4 years that we were listening to without vocals. And to hear vocals on them again, it was like, okay, that's the way they're supposed to sound, right? And so we've been throwing all of our time into All Shall Suffer. I think we have this release that we just put out, and I think we have 8 or 9 more songs that we have to kind of work through. And I was talking with Pierre about doing another split. So he was super cool about listening to me being super happy about the music. He's like, all right, let me see. And then, Axel's been really cool. That's the one thing I wanted to mention about Axel. He never put pressure on us to have to support the stuff. Like, he was always like, I'll release it. Let's make some shirts for you guys. Let's make some CDs for you guys. Let's do a split. And we never had to worry about getting in a van and driving around and supporting it. So, and he was real supportive when we were doing the All Shall Suffer stuff too. He's like, I want to distro it out here. So, this time around, it feels like we, and Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, or Melissa, it feels like we know what we're doing now. So,
very true. Very true.
Yeah, we're not fighting. Yeah, we're not fighting an uphill battle with figuring things out. And we have enough friends who are willing to support us, which is pretty cool.
And we grew up a lot, Obviously, we're a lot older, unfortunately. But, He's
not Melissa. I just want to say
Melissa's still the same age from '98. But you know, we just got older, so everything just became a lot easier,
and stupid shit became less important.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, through the time that they were playing and everything, I always had something missing. It was always missing. You know, I never realized it was the music. I would always listen to hardcore, and I always listened to Bulldoze and Mad Bull. I was always on bought their releases and stuff, and just going through life, and you're like, what's missing? And I realized after I got married and I had kids, I'm like, what? It's got to be the music. And Nikki and Melissa, I mean, we were always together, the three of us, all the time in the early days. And so when we connected again and we got into the studio, it just felt right, you know.
Yeah, because I was going to say, as a guitarist, if I'm not in a band, I can be at home and just pick the guitar up and play, and continue playing at home. But as a vocalist, if you ain't sung for ages, what's that first screen like? Is
not good.
How do you build it? How do you find your voice again?
I don't know. I just went in there and we did Stand Strong, and it just came. Yeah, it just came to me again. I mean, I don't think I'm the greatest vocalist of all time, so I just yell into a microphone. I think most of the music is the real that drives things. You know, Nicky's riffs and the beats he puts and shit, and now with Kevin and Melissa. That's the stuff that really gets it going.
To me, like as Denied went on, like towards the end of Denied, it sounds more metal as time goes on. And this new All Shall Suffer record is like a good mix of like older Denied and later Denied, and then the new progressions that you brought in. I did want to ask actually, that intro, is that old? Like it just sounds like a old, if you know what I mean, in a good way.
That's Nicky.
Yeah. No, that was a bottle of bourbon. I don't remember writing that. I wrote the guitar and drums. I woke up the next day like, what the fuck was that? And we had that. So that's a relatively new one, but
it's got that vibe though. It's got that 90s vibe to it, and I was like, yes. When I first went,
that's one thing. What, like when we talked about what we wanted to do, like we had some other songs that we wrote that just didn't work. They were just way too melodic, solos and all that kind of stuff. And one thing we did talk about with Greg is that we did want to focus a lot on the older style, like the beatdown stuff, the heavy chuggy stuff, and so like there was a conscious effort to not make things too flighty. So we shelved a bunch of songs that we don't think worked. And we focused on writing tight, heavy riffs, like that riff reminds me a lot of the intro that Little Greg wrote, the same style of like how, like the progression of the riff and how we structured that song. And so there was a conscious effort to bring that stuff back because I was personally missing it, but that intro was, I don't know where it came from. But I'm glad that I was able to record it.
All hell modern technology as well, getting that shit down while you're drunk.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole thing, right? I don't even remember doing it. So
just on a quick one, Greg, your favorite venue and city to play when you was playing?
I mean, Castle Heights is always home. We again, like Nicky said, we grew from there. You have 5 people to playing shows that were packed and people going nuts. I couldn't wait to get into the city to play Coney Island High, and when we played that was pretty cool. But I would have to say Castle.
Nicky, yourself, favorite place and a venue you play at?
To play, my favorite show that we play, or the venue to play at, was Castle Heights. But there was a place on Long Island called the P-Wack.
Oh, the P-Wack,
right?
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And it was pretty much a warehouse that these guys rented and built out like a stage and a sound system. And there would always be hundreds and hundreds of people every weekend going to this club. And we never had an opportunity to play it because they got shut down before we had an opportunity to like get out Long Island. But that's one place that was always banging. There was always good shows.
Where do we play with Puya? We played like a place like the Dirt or something. What was it called? Wasn't Jazz?
That was. I don't know. That was a good show.
That was
like the venue wasn't necessarily great, but we played with Puya and a bunch of other local bands out in Long Island. But then there was a ton of small little clubs like Dr. Shay's out and the Crocodile Club that we played with E-Town Concrete. And so like there was a lot of I like those little clubs. Like when we played Wales when we were there. And like I said, it was a small club and we kept getting knocked into and kicked and knocked over, and it was the best of time. Like I love those type of shows. Like, don't put me on a stage, put me on the floor with everybody else and we'll play.
Thinking about it now, the Pipeline was good. When we played the Pipeline with E-Town Concrete, and Anthony threw the fucking bottle into the sound booth and ran up there. Holy shit.
Is that New Jersey?
Yeah. Yeah, it was nuts.
Yeah.
That was a good show.
And Melissa, yourself, what was your favorite places to play or to visit?
I agree with Nick. I hated stages. I don't know why. I always hated stages. I mean, I would play in them, but if we got to a venue where we were on the floor, I would always be the happiest. But I have to tell you, one of my favorite shows ever was this backyard barbecue that we did in the Bronx. It was the sloppiest, hottest mess going. But I remember we had little kids from the neighborhood climbing up the trees to watch us. And they would be hanging over just watching us. And I just remember thinking that was just so badass. It was so funny because, we were just in a backyard, no stage. We sounded horrible. It was sonically terrible, but the vibe was so much fun. So anytime we got to do sort of intimate types of shows like that, were great. I love those. Those were a lot of fun. But as a formal place, I think, I like, what was it? I like the one in London, Underworld.
The Verge, I think that might have been.
And it was a lot of fun. And I remember there was just a huge, massive brawl.
Yeah, for a couple of years back there, that was like our little mainstay venue just for a little while back then. I don't remember the brawl though, but that was, it was kind of normal, I suppose, back then, wasn't it?
Yeah. I want to just give a little shout out to the drummer during that tour was this great kid named Leslie Jones, and he just passed away. And we just found out about it like yesterday, and it was just really heartbreaking. And that kid was, he came through for us so that we could make it to that tour as the drummer. And, my heart goes out to him because he had 4 kids and, this just happened this week. So I feel really heartbroken about that. But I want to acknowledge him because had he not been there, we probably would not have been able to make it because we were having so much trouble getting a drummer at that time. So just a shout out to him.
Everyone but us. Straight from the heart of London.
I just want to say it's been really, really good talking to you guys.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
It's fun.
I've got 3 questions. First question is from Jack Baker. And Jack asks, how does it feel knowing you've influenced so many bands?
It's definitely weird. I mean, just coming from where we came from and, just sitting in Nikki's mother's basement, writing songs, and me sitting here and trying to write lyrics and getting frustrated, Melissa helping me out with some stuff. It's just funny because people are like, oh man, 20 years later, they're still talking about this album. We have 6 or 7 songs on. It's crazy.
I think it's really humbling to think that people, talk about our music to this day. I mean, I still come across comments that people leave and so on. I can't believe we're still remembered. And I take it as just an honor. That's what it is. It's just an honor to be remembered and to be thought of in that way. And it just means a lot. Like, it really means a lot that, looking back, we sacrificed a lot during the times that, we put this music out. You give up a lot. You give up your time, your money, you give up, you go through a lot. And so the fact that people remember us, I think is just incredible. I can't think of anything, more awesome than that, for sure.
Agreed with all that. I don't feel it personally. Like, it was just a record we did. We did it live in 2 days. But it's pretty awesome that people connect to it and they have some even after all this time. It's not just those old heads that we knew 20 years ago, but younger kids are listening to it, and that's pretty cool, and that's awesome, and I appreciate that.
All right, so that was Jack. The second question is from Alex Rover, and his question is, does the band prefer the bagpipe or guitar Amazing Grace intro?
Great question. I like the bagpipes personally. That's my Irish half. We weren't even going to do like the intro, that the Amazing Grace part, and Casey was in the studio and he's like, let me just give one try. If you guys don't like it after one try on guitar, we'll take it out. And he banged that out in one shot, like played it, and then the engineer mixed it together, and we're like, okay, we'll keep it. But I like the bagpipes.
Yeah, me too. I love the bagpipes. That's really cool.
I'm partial to the bagpipes.
Let's answer that. And then the final question is from Connor Niche Stone. His question is, Castle Heights seemed to be the place for shows in New York City when it came to bands such as yourselves, Billy Club Sandwich, Irate, etc. He basically wants to know, what is your favorite moment and lineup in that venue?
I don't know. There's so many moments and lineups that we played with, and I saw that were insane. I can't pick one out. That place was just nuts at its height. It was crazy, especially when Irate and all the Bronx kids started coming down and playing there, and we got the Long Island kids to come in. It was, for a small place, we packed it up. It was crazy.
Yeah, it would be over capacity all the time. I mean, Crowbar played, right? I mean, like just these huge bands would come in and play this club because they had to, because you heard so much about it. So I remember we played with Marauder there. We played with E-Town Concrete, All Out War, Shut Down. So like, I don't think there is one. I don't know that I could say it. That club was unique. The sound system wasn't necessarily that great, but it didn't matter. It was just a place. There's not going to be another Castle Heights.
Definitely not.
For me.
Definitely not.
I've actually got one question I would like to ask. Do your kids listen to your band? Listen to Denied?
No.
What do they think of? What would they think about their parents being musicians?
Well, our son is 15 now, and we were blasting music the other day in the car, and he said, "Can you please lower that?" And I just like, oh my gosh. So he's not into it. He's not into it, but he respects it and he appreciates it, and he doesn't actively listen to it, but he definitely, I mean, at home, Nick's always playing guitar, always, all the time. He's got guitars all over the house. He's always jamming. So, our son grew up watching, his dad, not me, not really me, but his dad playing all the time. But, when we told him about the recording, I'm like, okay, listen, we're going to be going ahead. Okay. All right, fine. Doesn't ask, doesn't really care. I mean, he's a teenager. They're so into different things now, but I feel like maybe one day when he's older, he will hopefully, realize how incredibly cool we were, right? And he will respect it. But no, he's not into it.
Yeah, my kids are definitely into it. They and not so much the Denied stuff, but the All Shall Suffer stuff. I released, once we released it and now it's on Spotify, they get like a kick out of it. Oh, look, that's you on Spotify. How many streams you got today? And my son's
cool.
My son's walking around here with a shirt that says All Shall Suffer. Yeah, he's learning all the lyrics. Unfortunately, I don't need
I'm sure they must tell their school friends, oh, my dad's in a band, like that. So
I'm sure he tells everybody.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool, man.
Yeah,
hopefully it's just inspiring for them if they want to go into that route of doing music when they get older or whenever they want to start. That'd be pretty cool.
I hope so.
Really, Melly and Nick, your story really reminded me of there's a friend of mine from work, and he's huge like grindcore fan. Like he's always got Napalm Death or Carcass, whatever on, and his kids are like, he just says to me, my kids just go, Daddy's listening to his shouty, angry music again.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's got to be the first generation where that's happened now. Like, the kids are like, "Oh, that's too heavy, Dad."
They're using pop music to rebel because we're just like,
Yeah.
No. It was I listened to heavy metal to annoy the shit out of my parents. He's listening to top 40 to do the same.
From the ashes of New York's hardest, Denied, comes All Shall Suffer. With that unmistakable sound all the way from Queens, All Shall Suffer bring you their debut album, The Way of Pain.
You have chosen the way of pain.
Featuring 7 brand new tracks and a re-recording of the Denied classic Stand Strong, The Way of Pain is everything you'd expect from these true heavyweights of hardcore, and it's available right now on all good streaming services.
Greg, Melissa, Nikki, thank you guys so much. This was Denied. And have you got a shout out to anyone else that you want to shout out? Obviously, plug your bands, plug anything else that you do. This is the moment to do it.
Yeah, no, just, a lot of things had to line up for us to be able to do this. So, Greg, Melissa, Kevin, I'm super appreciative for all these guys, and hopefully it comes out in the music. So we're available everywhere. All Shall Suffer, the new record. We're trying to release more things super quick. COVID kind of put us on our ass for the last year, so we were going to do this release last year, and it got kind of pushed back. But we're getting merch out now, getting the music ready, getting new music recorded. So please keep an eye out. Reach out to us, friend us on social media. We're pretty friendly people, so reach out to us, say hi. We appreciate all of that. We appreciate the feedback and inputs.
Yeah, I would just say, first of all, thanks to you guys for this awesome opportunity. But honestly, you guys are more than just this podcast. You've been friends with us. I know that I've chatted with Steve for ever since we came back for years, at least 15 years. We keep in touch regularly and stuff. And so, it's an honor to really just be back and to be able to, share with you guys. And I have to say, it was a great interview. I love the questions. They were really great. But yeah, all our stuff is now available, and we're still working on stuff. We're currently working on doing a release with band called Mask Up. So maybe Greg, can you talk to him a little bit about Mask Up?
Yeah. This kid Chris reached out to Nikki, who's been reached out to me. He's in a band called Mask Up. It's like a COVID session kind of thing, and he has a bunch of vocalists on it. So he has Stikman, he has Sal of Sworn Enemy, myself, Chris from Shattered Realm. So he asked me to do a song, and we're in the process of recording that.
And that's going to be a charity record, so all the proceeds are going to be donated to UNICEF here. So it's a good cause.
Okay. Wemma, Steve, this has been obviously another fantastic episode. Have you got anything you'd like to add before we... Oh, shit, I want to say as well, I heard some new stuff the other day, Wemma. It sounds really good, mate.
What's that? Oh, yeah, thank you, man. Yeah.
Of your OG band. It sounds really good. I'm not going to say much more than that, but yeah, it sounds really good, mate.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it, man. But I would.
You sound really enthusiastic about that.
How could you do that? I want to hear it.
Maybe it's just in there like, oh, that.
Thanks. I appreciate it, Lewis. I appreciate that. But I wanted to thank you guys for coming on and taking your time out to, tell us your story. And yeah, man, just continue doing what you're doing. And I hope to see you guys over on this side of the Atlantic at some point, maybe next year. Who knows, man? And make sure you get your kid into your band.
Yeah, exactly. At least carrying equipment. Yeah.
Steve?
Thank you.
Yeah, no, just same as you guys. Just thank you for coming on, man. Greg, it's nice to meet you.
You too, man. Thank you.
First time.
Yeah.
Melissa and Nick, great to catch up with you guys again. It's been a really, really long time. So hopefully we'll get you over here and we'll get some gigs going. We'll get Greg full of drugs before he gets on that plane.
A lot. It's gonna be a lot.
If NSA is listening, we're talking about legal drugs, like
Give him a bunch of Benadryl and knock him out like a toddler.
If you take a shit, you should arrive by this time next year. So,
all right. So yeah, but this is us, Everyone But Us podcast. Thank you very much. Hope to hear from you guys soon. Take care. Bye bye.
You're listening to the Everyone But Us podcast. Hold on a minute. Stay where you are. You might have heard Greg just now on the Denied podcast speaking about the Mask Up project. We'll keep listening because now we've got a segment with Chris and some of the rest of the guys from Mask Up. Straight from the heart of London.
We've got some special guests today, and I'll introduce him first. His name is Chris Kovac, and he is... Chris, what do you do in the band?
I'm doing vocals.
You're doing vocals in the band. Okay,
Yeah.
cheers. Chris is doing a band with some heavy hitters from the hardcore metal scene. Well, yeah, the hardcore metal scene. Basically, it's a collaboration between some bands around the world, and they're basically going to be donating proceeds from the music that they're doing, which will be going to UNICEF. So I'm going to pass it on to Chris, and obviously he can tell us a little bit more about the project that he started and that is currently ongoing. So go ahead, Chris.
What's up, guys? We really appreciate you taking time out to let us help get the word out around the world. So more or less, I used to set up benefit shows for different charities, but with obviously COVID going on, we decided to go a different route. So I reached out to some friends of mine, and we decided to put together an EP. EP is called the COVID Sessions Volume 1. The band's name is Mask Up, and all proceeds will be going to UNICEF, where, hardcore does have heart, no matter if we're talking about splitting wigs or whatever, what have you. We're trying to do some good for the community and have some fun.
Is there any part of, is it just UNICEF in general, or is there a specific part of the charity that you'll be donating to, or will the monies be going to sort of different parts of UNICEF organisation?
We're going to let them decide where they want to, disperse it and what areas. We're going to do this one for sure. Hopes is everybody likes it. It does really well. And then maybe we'll do a second volume.
Obviously, we've got two other members of this band, Mask Up. We've got Jeff, who plays drums. Jeff, do you want to obviously let people know what bands that you've previously been in the past? I should say.
Yeah, absolutely. Currently, I still play drums for Blown Chaos, and my project up here is Concrete Ties. And I've filled in drums for Immure, Sworn Enemy, countless amounts of bands I've played drums for. So
All drummers do though, don't they? Every drummer has like 12 bands.
We were kind of slutty.
I was gonna mention as well. We on a previous episode that we've done, we actually had Ray Chaos, who's singing in Brick by Brick, and it was a blast talking to him. So obviously we've got someone who's obviously a member of Full Blown Chaos doing his podcast with us now as well.
I guess next you're gonna have to have Full Blown Chaos on.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
definitely, man.
We were due to play a show in London before COVID happened. It was going to be
Wisdom in Chains.
Yeah, the Wisdom in Chains tour.
Yeah, and finally, obviously, there's a few members of this band. We've only had 3 of them who are on with us today during this podcast piece. We've got Joe Kenny. So some people here in the UK might be familiar with Joe. I mean, he's got an English accent, so obviously that's very familiar. Joe, what band was you in previously or you're still maybe doing? I'm not sure. What band was you previously in?
Yeah, so I was previously the vocalist from Pain and Respect, and then I filled in for a band called Dead Man's Chest on guitar for about a year, and now I'm currently playing guitars in First Blood.
Excellent stuff. How did you manage to get hooked up with First Blood? And obviously, I'm sure you've toured with them in the past and that. So,
yeah. We've been friends for many years. Every time that those guys come and play UK and Europe kind of thing, and we always ended up having a show or a weekend together. So we just got familiar with each other then, and heard the guitarist wasn't up for playing guitars anymore, kind of thing. So, and I was currently filling in for Dead Man's Chest at the time. And it was just the right place at the right time, I guess. Can you play these shows yet? And then it's stuck from there.
Because that's the beauty of hardcore, man. Obviously, people know each other. We can just
everyone knows each other.
Yeah, you can just go.
On a quick one, what happened to Pay No Respect?
You know, I guess all good things have to come to an end, don't they? And it had been about 10 years, and just, I guess people have grown up and out of it. You know, people have mortgages and want to move out and get married and this and that. And the more time that we didn't play show, we just knew, look, one last tour, end it on a high, and then that's what we did. Yeah, 2017 was our last show.
So obviously, let's get back to Mask Up. Thanks for letting us, you guys, obviously tell us about your previous stuff and that he's doing. So, Chris, how did you obviously have this idea of what you wanted to do? So, how did you go about getting people to obviously get this band together? What was, I mean, presumably it was obviously mostly internet and hitting people up, but how did you get going in terms of doing this sort of thing, in terms of getting the band started?
So I haven't been in a band in like 15, 16 years. And, you know, with COVID, I had a couple shows planned for this year that obviously fell apart also last year. So I was just mulling it around in my head. What can we do, you know, to help raise some money this year? So I reached out to a friend, Jeff Cummings from Sworn Enemy, and wanted to see if he wanted to put something together while he had some downtime. And he said, you know, Chris, I got so much going on. I think he's working with Anthrax. He's working with all these bands. And he said, but have you checked out Joe Kenny's riff sessions on Facebook? I said, no, I have not. So went on there, checked out Joe's work, and he is the riff master. And he just had tons and tons of riff sessions on there. And I reached out to Joe and never met Joe in my life, never spoke to Joe, but pitched this idea to him, and he was 100% down to do it. After we got that together and basically told him all his riff sessions are now songs for Mask Up, reached out to Jeff, and Jeff was totally down to help us record and get some stuff going. Brandon Voorhees from Lionheart, Nasty, Marauder, he's coming in to, you know, help out with second guitars and do some leads. And we originally had Rich Thurston from Treason and Terror as the bassist, but, you know, time and life got in the way. So luckily, Mike Pooch from Sworn Enemy hopped on and recorded the bass for the EP. And it was just a wild idea that I never thought would actually come to anything. But here we are with a 95% recorded 7-song EP. And we're dying to get it out. We're hoping to drop our single, which is Rage Against the Dying of the Light, featuring Chris, Shattered Realm, Suffer the Living. Yeah, we're hoping to get that bad boy out in the next month or so.
Excellent stuff. You just mentioned, obviously, Chris is going to be doing the guest vocal. You got some other guest vocalists who are going to be, who've jumped on board as well. Do you want to let obviously the audience know who those people will be?
Yeah. Man, it's a party, this album, man. Reaching out to everybody and everybody being so interested in helping out. I mean, like, Chris is on the single. You guys had Greg from Denied and All Shall Suffer on there. He's on a track with us. We got the legendary Stikman doing a song with us. We got Sal from Sworn Enemy, Ray from Full Blown Chaos, Brick by Brick. I mean, it's a plethora of who's who, you know, and it's a real honor as being a fan of all these guys that they would actually do a song with me to help, you know, get this word out and just help push this thing along. And I think everybody, it's a little bit of something for everybody. So there's some metal songs, there's some hardcore, there's some hip hop, there's a little bit of everything in it. So there'll be a flavor for everybody for sure.
So you haven't got one particular style that you've gone with. It's just
Well, I mean, you know, Joe writes the heaviest riffs, but I mean, mixing up Jeff's style with some leads and some songs from Brandon, and it's not one song sounds like the other one, which is cool because I feel like there'll be a song for everybody and every style. So
that's pretty cool, man. As you said, that is definitely the lineup of what's it called of guest vocalists is actually that's pretty big, man. If you know who's who in the hardcore metal world, then you'll be like, shit, man, this is like some serious heavy hitters that you've obviously brought on board to help out with a lot of the tracks. But I also wanted to quickly ask, how do you guys go around sort of like putting the tune together? Who comes up with the most ideas for riffs or drum fills, etc.? Is it a bit of all you's doing it, or is it one particular person who's driving that process forwards?
Yes.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, so basically we like Chris said, I had these riff sessions just uploading. I make like a minute long session while, just to give people on social media something to listen to. So we made them, and Chris was like, okay, let's make this project. Who's got any ideas? And I was like, well, I've got like 25 of these 1 minute riff sessions. So I'll just put all these together and make what I can out of it, So you basically write the song from start to finish, and then the guys add their bits to it. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
I was going to ask about that for drums and stuff, like, because I've had things with like some of my mates who live abroad and whatever, where we've said, yeah, one day we'll just do a fucking international band, we'll just put an EP out, something like that. But when you actually think about it, how are you going to get how are you going to get like yeah. How are you going to get the drums like written properly and stuff like that? So that kind of interests me. How do you like marry
it? It is kind of hard. So with these riff sessions, I'll write a riff and I'll hear in my head a drum beat and I'll just program that beat to it. And, I gave the song to Jeff and I was like, just do your thing, do whatever you want with it. Because I know that, he'll smash it. So that's basically what he did. Made it 10 times better in my opinion.
Jeff, how was his drum programming out of 10?
Well, it's funny you asked that, because just like any other guitar player that programs drums, they make things somewhat impossible to play.
Yeah.
But Joe kept it pretty real. He kept a lot of stuff that honestly I would have kept myself anyway. Like, certain hardcore riffs, the drums just are what they are. But it's what makes it unique is when you start doing your fills, or maybe a halftime a beat a certain way. But it was really interesting process. I've never done anything like this before. And
me too. Like when I heard it back, I was like, I never would have thought of just doing that beat on that riff. And I was like, wow, what a difference. Keep it.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about. People are going to be surprised by it, but based on Joe's riffs, it really pushed me out of my comfort zone, so to speak. And because I wasn't just enclosed in a studio with my normal dudes that I normally record with, it really pushed me to be as best as I possibly could be. So it was a very interesting process.
Did you I'll ask this. So when you add your bit, was you a bit nervous of how you thought the other guys would hear it? Am I making sense what I'm saying? So when you added your jump, would you like, are they going to like it? They're not going to like it? Are they going to say they liked it, but whether they don't?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely floating in the back of my head, but it kind of comes down to one of those things where it is what it is. It's like, if you want me to play the drums on it, that's just how it's going to be. I mean, it can change stuff here and there, but it's
sometimes with recording something over the internet and then send it to someone, and then they're going, I don't like it. It's almost like I can't just make that last minute adjustment and send it again. It is what it is now. Like, and it's guitars, and then the bass, and the drums, and the vocals, and it's like everyone's adding their own bits on it. Like, and it's just getting better and better the more we add to it.
No, they all knocked it out of the park. I mean, the foundation and base of the songs coming from Joe, and then getting it over to Jeff where he puts his little spin on it, and just like he said, pulled himself out of his comfort zone, and Pooch got in there and just knocked it out, and then Brandon put his own, leads and his own little flavor on it. It couldn't have come together better if we were sitting in front of each other recording it. Vocal wise, like I said, I haven't been on a record in 15, 16 years. I sound totally different than I did. But it's kind of challenging me to make sure that I don't sound like absolute garbage, because these guys are top notch, musicians. So I'm pushing myself and getting out of my comfort zone a little bit. But then I also had in the back of my head, if I have a great guest on every song, if I suck, they can keep it going. You know what I mean?
I was literally about to ask you as a fellow vocalist. Obviously, you haven't done it for a while. So was you feeling a little bit nervous, or did you go into it feeling, I can do this with a little bit of confidence, knowing that this is obviously an idea that you had in your mind and you're just going to run with it and just see how it comes out?
Man, I was shitting. I'm not gonna lie. I was nervous because these guys are working so hard and taking time out of their personal lives to kind of make one of my dreams come true. After I got in there and did a couple quote unquote vocal warm-ups, I noticed my sound was totally different. So I had to kind of adapt on the fly there. And the way I got comfortable doing it was, we have a cover song that we're doing, more or less a tribute song to a dear friend of mine, Reek from NJ Bloodline. So I led with that song. I knew all the words. It was easy for me to record and kind of warm up to that. And then recording our own songs. I mean, you technically can't do the songs wrong because they're brand new and nobody knows what they're supposed to sound like anyways. But after I got through, the tribute song, we're going to do Four Winds. If you all know who NJ Bloodline is, we're going to do a Four Winds cover. It came a lot easier. I still have a couple songs I have to finish, but after I got through that first one, I was ready to go.
So you've said, so will it be 6 songs plus the cover, or is it 7 songs plus the cover?
So it's an intro, 6 originals, and a cover song.
Okay, so it's okay, I see it.
That's getting on for album then, really then.
Yeah, getting close, but we wanted to, not throw too much at the first project because, obviously, if people receive this and love this whole project, I mean, I know all the guys would definitely be interested in maybe doing another one in a year's time, just to keep, giving back.
Going back to the recording quickly, I just wanted to ask, how do you record it then? So, Jeff, have you got your own drum space? Because guitar you can record at home, but drums, how did you go around doing that?
So yeah, typically with any other project I've ever done, drums, I normally, you book your studio time, you just bring your kit in, you get the mics, and it takes, a week just to get everything going, more or less. With this, luckily, I have a couple of friends who have studios, but they don't have necessarily the equipment to run an acoustic kit. So I had an electronic drum set, which I've never recorded with before. I've never done anything like that before. So I brought that over to my buddy's spot, and we tracked it with an electronic kit. And I mean, it was, I don't know, it went flawless. It was smooth. Might be the way I record for the future, to be honest with you.
To be honest, man, when it's not even mixed and mastered yet, but if you would have said, here it is, I wouldn't even question it was a kit.
I probably shouldn't have even said anything that it was an electronic kit. Nobody would have known.
Oh yeah, it's that good. Yeah.
So you got the MIDI notes and you're putting the triggering live drum sounds.
Yeah. So yeah, the I forget the program that my buddy has, but it's that death metal drummer Krim. He did all the samples for it, and the drums are they're like super, super natural sounding, and like they went through a process of recording different velocities for strikes and stuff like that, so you can actually replicate real live playing on my notes. So it was a lot better than I had anticipated being.
That's interesting. That's really interesting.
That is definitely interesting. Joe, you just mentioned about mixing and mastering. Who is going to be taking part and doing that process?
You want to take that, Chris, because you personally know the guy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. A very dear friend of mine I've known for I want to say almost 25 years, Scott Gross. Played guitar for From Autumn to Ashes and a couple other bands. He's been mixing, mastering CDs now, and he's such a natural talent. And he was one of the original guitarists I reached out to do this project because he's so wrapped up in the engineering and recording process. He said, Chris, why don't you get some other guys together, and then I will mix, master, and produce it for you as my contribution to the whole thing. And he is an absolute monster. Like his music, he's done anything from, the guitars from Black Flag to Little Peep to, Vampires for Hire, all these different bands, and they all come out flawless. And, he's been a really good mentor to me during this whole project, giving me some really good advice and different ways to kind of help get me through this process as easy as possible. And I can't thank him enough. I think everybody's gonna be really pleased with the way this album sounds.
That's really cool, man.
That's quite a list.
Yeah, exactly. From the band itself to the people as the guests and the person who's mixing the mastering, there's definitely some heavyweight shit down in this project. So fair play to you for getting it all, putting it all together, Chris. For real.
Do you think you guys will ever get to play together? Is there any chance you could?
The $1 million question, Joe.
Don't tease me, man.
This is where Steve puts in the drum roll.
It's funny because we were just talking about this too.
It'd be weird, but I feel if say we did a 3-day run, like kind of we're talking about like a New York, New Jersey, Philly kind of thing. I think 2 practices and we would be pretty in sync. I mean, these guys are, like I said, they're the most talented people that I've ever worked with. And I've worked with some really, really solid musicians, but I don't think these guys would have a problem syncing right up.
It's one of it. If we listened to it long enough, I think we'd all probably nail it on the first take. You remember it, you know.
I think also like the level of musicianship that each member has individually. It wouldn't take us more than one rehearsal to be like, all right, yeah, we can. Yeah, let's nail it.
I believe that you guys will definitely pull it off because just a quick story. We're the 3 of us are in a band called Ironed Out, and before we went on tour last year, with a couple of years ago, with Full Blown Chaos, Madball, Death Before the Sun, and Brick by Brick, sorry, and a few other bands. I got mixed up there because I just had raised the face in my head. But yeah, what a face too! What a face! It's got a big bearded face, man. But as I was saying, our drummer, I think we had like how many practices did we have with him? Yeah, like a couple of practices.
Lewis, it was only about 3 or 4, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, we didn't have that many practices with him, but his first show with us was the first show of the tour, and we've done 10 dates after that. So obviously, if you guys manage to actually get this band together and do a few shows in the tri-state area, and obviously New Jersey, PA, and New York, obviously you'll have 3 days to be together. Then by the 3rd show, you'd be like, oh shit, okay, we can do this now. But yeah, after 10 days of being together, it was down and we nailed it. So I think it could definitely happen. It could definitely work.
Yeah, that's right, man. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd have to move to America. Joe.
I had mentioned move to the tri-state area and also do a London show for Joe. Keep it local. Let him get a local one.
Okay, yeah, all you guys fly over here then, yeah. We can do the underworld, yeah.
You're going to have to ask me twice. I will be on the first flight out.
We're going to have to get a GoFundMe together for Joe's airplane ticket.
Yeah. Get Joe in America.
Is there anything in the pipeline for a video? A video would be cool. Maybe like even a video in your own little spots.
Yeah, I mean anything at this stage of the game, anything's possible. You know, we're thinking about doing merch. We're actually going to be working with. We're not really putting this too far out there yet, but Upstate Records is going to be helping us get this thing out. And I've been collaborating with Mario for a little while now on what would be a good strategy on how to do this whole thing. And he's been absolutely great. He's been putting out so many bangers over the last couple of years here. His idea would be, you know, drop a few singles before the EP, maybe some lyric videos, things like that. But if we ever could get the guys together, I would definitely have that thing professionally recorded so we can have that as something that would be available for download that would also go to charity.
Yeah, I don't know the guy personally who does Upstate, but obviously I follow his page on Facebook and I think Instagram as well. But just the amount of bands that he seems to have on, and he does a lot of comps and stuff. So he has been putting in the work in terms of getting his label up and running, and people have taken notice. I think they've even now got a little subsidiary here in Europe as well, which is taking care of doing some things, because the band Bushido Codes has literally just released an album called The Ronin. So yeah, fair play to Upstate Records. If it does happen, obviously, if you guys, I mean, you're just talking at the moment, so that'd be a great thing if it did happen with them.
I'm just looking at this lineup of all the different people that you got involved, and I'm just thinking that's got Package Tour written all over it, man.
Oh, of course.
That's what I said.
Yeah, I mean, me and Chris was talking about it in the previous podcast. It's got This Is Hardcore Fest written all over it. Every band plays, and then we do the mask up.
Yeah,
that'd be really good, man.
I think a package tour on a tour bus through Europe would definitely work, man. It would, like, just with the names of the band, there will be a lot of people who will pay attention to that and would
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Mask Up is the opener, and it's every member from the bands that are playing afterwards.
Be a damn good warm-up.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Two sets of the Mask Up stuff.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
It's pretty tough.
Do you have a date of when things are going to be coming out, or is it still a little bit unsure at the moment?
Well, we're a little on the fence about dates and stuff like that. Like Mario was saying, we should probably get the single out first, and then maybe follow with a second one before the EP drops. But the full thing will definitely be out by summer. Definitely.
Oh, excellent!
I think we're looking at doing maybe a lyric video for the first one.
Absolutely.
So that'll drop as a video first on the first single. Yeah. Then maybe another video after that. We'll figure it out.
That's the way of hardcore now, man. Everyone's got to do videos now just to. It's not like back in the day where it was just like
social media.
Exactly, your CD or your vinyl can like just get you the shows and whatnot. Like now you need to be more visual of what you're going to be doing.
But yeah, even more so if we're not a touring band, it's all just going to be based around social media.
That's it, man. It's just the way of the game, how it is now. It's no hate, it's just how it is now, isn't it?
Yeah.
But anyway, do you guys want to do any shout outs? Obviously, we're coming to the end of this now. Is there anyone who you particularly want to thank? Is there any information that people should be checking out and knowing about? Obviously, put any news on the band and when things are going to be coming out.
Well, we definitely, we got, the Instagram and the Facebook, check us out on there, like us, follow us. There's so many people to thank, everybody in this band, I think personally, like I said, for taking their time out and doing this project and trying to do some good. I mean, from the band members to the guests to Scott to Mario to all those guys. We just want everybody, keep your ears peeled. When this thing hits, just make sure that you're telling a friend who tells a friend who tells a friend.
So, just want to say finally a massive shout out to Mask Up. We've got Chris, we've got Jeff, and we've got Joe from the band. And hopefully their music will be, their release will be coming out sometime in the summer. No date's been put forward as yet. We thank you guys for coming on. Obviously, just like a little brief sort of chat and introduction to you guys, but I'm sure people who are listening are going to be well aware and they're going to be excited to hear what you guys are doing. And of course, as we've been talking about, anything that is obviously made is going to be contributed and donated to UNICEF, which is obviously a fantastic idea and something which you guys should be proud of, definitely.
Yeah, and we thank you guys big time for, because of podcasts and things like this and like your show, we can get the word out. And we are completely grateful, obviously, for your time and having us on.
It'd be cool once it drops to get you on again.
We would love
of course,
we
man.
have the songs, man.
Yeah, that's it. A little deep dive into what the songs and that are about, etc. That will be something which would be cool. So we watch this space, isn't it?
Cool,
yeah, absolutely. We really appreciate you guys.
No, thank you, man.
All right, guys, thank you very much. That was the Everyone But Us podcast. So thank you very much, guys, and enjoy the rest of your days. Peace.
You're listening to the Everyone But Us podcast, straight from the heart of London.